Demolition, Playhouse. Michael Rosenberg. About a year ago, I was at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., the theater where President Lincoln was assassinated. You should take a look at the photos of what that theater looked like in the ensuing decades. Decrepit, broken, abandoned. Far worse than our Playhouse ever was. In fact, on June 19th in 1893, 3 floors fell down and killed 20 people, but it was restored, and it's beautiful. Throughout the history of the Ford's Theater, there were calls for it to be demolished. It's great property, great location, and developers were salivating at the opportunity. The people fought to save it. When I toured the Ford's Theater, I had the opportunity to speak with staff members about our battle to save the Coconut Grove Playhouse. They told me the fight sounds familiar, and they were hopeful we'd be successful, just as they were. Can you imagine Washington, D.C. without the Ford's Theater? Can you imagine Coconut Grove without the Playhouse? Apparently some can. But we're here to say we cannot. We cannot imagine destroying not only the crown jewel of Coconut Grove, but also one of our few remaining historical venues. In traveling around our country, I've seen too far many of those "Here once stood" signs, and you know what I mean, and often wondered, how were the citizens not able to stop those demolitions? I suppose they had meetings like this one, pleading with officials such as yourself, as we are right now, to not take away their history. But if you see the "Here stood once" sign, you know they failed. I'm hoping we will not fail, and that we will not have to put in front of the Coconut Grove Playhouse "Here once stood" sign. The staff from Ford's Theater told me that at the end of the day, it's about the people in place that can make the decision. In their final victory, they said they were grateful to have the right people in the right place. So one day in the near future, I hope you can attend a play at the fully restored theater, sit back in your chair, and know that you helped make it happen. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Berrien. I'm one of the complainants in the lawsuit. I reside within 500 feet of the Playhouse. When we purchased our property and decided to live on Charles Avenue, we knew that we were living in a single-family home area that was next to an institutional property. We understood at the time that the Playhouse in its full capacity would be refurbished, and eventually one day it would become an active theater again, and we looked forward to that. The characteristic of an institutional property, if you think of municipal properties like schools that are similar, or a church, something along those lines, is a large building with a parking lot that is sometimes in use, right? The community will go there for certain reasons. You can set your watch by it. You know when the traffic will come. You can arrange for traffic control to be there. And at other times when it's not in use, it's a quiet part of your neighborhood. At the same time, this large building for us in the Grove, Charles Avenue, a very historic street, for many, many years has served as the buffer between the commercial area of the Grove and our quiet residential street. The bait and switch that's gone on here with this current plan is continuing to call the property institutional while it's really building a property that is an outdoor mall and has really more of the characteristic of a commercial property than an institutional property. Bars, restaurants, other clubs, like a mall, right? Where traffic is coming and going. Uber drivers are coming and going. Delivery trucks are coming and going. Music is loud. You have trash issues that come with restaurants in your neighborhood. Effectively, this plan, what it looks to do from the vantage point of my porch, is a mall that faces my street, a mall that is encroaching upon my street, that happens to have a little theater in it that occasionally might happen to house some kind of theatrical production. So I'm opposed to this for a lot of different reasons, but the main one being that I feel that the city is not upholding its own code, that the city is not responding to what the public wants, which is the restitution of the entire building, and the fact that this plan will very much change the character of our neighborhood entirely by encouraging commercial encroachment onto our historic residential street. So I really encourage you to side against demolishing the property. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marlene Irvin. I ask this board to please rescind the demolition waiver for all of the reasons that David Winker just laid out to you very eloquently. and return it back to the HEP Board for the proper approval that it deserves. I support preserving the entire Playhouse structure. It's designated historic by the HEP Board, by the state of Florida, and is on the National Register of Historic Places. In 2004, the voters voted in a $20 million bond to fully restore the Playhouse as it is, not to use those funds to demolish 80% of it. So I ask you please to send this back to the HEP Board and get the proper approvals in accordance with historic guidelines. Thank you.
Melissa Meyer. The Historic and Environmental Board is charged with promoting the preservation of the city's heritage by identifying and designating properties of major significance and closely monitoring alterations to them. Commissioner Regalado has repeatedly told the public that she has made significant alterations to the county's historic preservation project. The public is not stupid. It's not a historic preservation project. The public is fully aware that the project is a mixed-use mega development project for the cleared Coconut Grove Playhouse parcel. Because the county's design has undergone alterations, and because the Historic and Environmental Board is required to closely monitor alterations to historic properties, the board must review the alterations. Please approve the appeal of the demolition waiver for the Coconut Grove Playhouse because the county's design has changed and the public is not stupid. Thank you.
My name is Marilyn Monroe, AKA Jennifer Howard, and I heard there was an impending demolition of an important historic piece of Miami's history, as well as theater in general. We are set to demolish this building, and I would ask that you deny the county this permit until we've reviewed it, until the board has reviewed it again. We're all adults here. I think we know what's going on with this building. It is an important and very expensive piece of property that the state, it's written in the lease, has deeded over, could possibly deed over to the county. That means give it to them for nothing. And this is clearly not about a cultural project. This is a development project. I don't care how many paseos and pocket parks they try to carve through there, the West Grove is not going to buy that baloney. And I think it's time that we stopped the neglect of this building. The commissioner, along with the Miami Community News, made a beautiful video that you can watch where they both walked through, tripping over debris and broken glass and trash and pieces of important historic structure without even carrying a broom. And they just walked through it and put it on video for everyone to see. And everyone is guilty of not making them follow the conditions of their lease. The state is guilty. The FIU is guilty of being involved in this project because in the lease it says that this project was going to bring clout and prestige to the FIU program, theater program. They already have a small theater. What on earth would they want to be associated with a mall and a small theater? I certainly wouldn't bring any of my fans to this theater, and I don't think the city of Miami deserves anything less than a real theater, a regional theater. Thank you.
My name is Barbara Lang. I used to live across the street from the Coconut Grove Playhouse, and I was here when we were here discussing making it a historic structure, which was, 20 years ago? And I've been here at every hearing ever since, and I've seen the county and FIU be bad stewards of the property. And I was also with Katrina, an appellant, and they took us through the Playhouse, and the county didn't clean anything up. There was broken glass, there were garbage. They let people, homeless people, sleep there. They've been a bad steward. And please, I'm asking you, please don't allow them to have a demolish the Coconut Grove Playhouse. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm an FIU alumni. I'm also a tour guide in the Everglades. I've been there for 5 years. I love history, architecture, and I see what's happening in Miami. I've been here for 30 years, and I see it slowly changing into like a little New York. I feel like a lot of people can agree here. I don't think the fear is homelessness or teenagers doing drugs in the abandoned lot. I think the fear is losing culture. I would like to read you something really quick. It's just a paragraph. Coconut Grove is the oldest neighborhood in Miami, right? Built by Bahamians, and the Playhouse is an amazing symbol of that. Historic preservation provides a link to roots of the community and its people, and adds to the quality of life, making for a more livable community. When something as symbolic of a community and as art as the Playhouse is destroyed in the name of a more reasonable commercial development, it's letting its own community know their people and their history don't matter. Why continue with a plan that would take away a national landmark from historic Coconut Grove? Why not reassess? Why push through with appeals and suing in order to get in their own way when it's clear the voice of the people wants something more considerate, more thoughtful, more artistic, and more communal?
My name is Gloriana Calhoun. I'm for denying the permit simply because the plans have changed. And like Melissa said before me, we're not stupid. I'd like to touch on two very quick points: that saving the Coconut Grove Playhouse is very important for the cultural and economic future of the Grove. And I want to touch on diversity and reputation. As we all know, Coconut Grove is one of the most diverse communities in South Florida. We have all sorts of culture that reside here together. The Playhouse and the two Playhouse plan that a lot of us have and promote keeps the culture and the diversity in the Grove. It shares the neighborhood. If the Playhouse is torn down, the West Grove will be totally disenfranchised. It will not have anything to do with anything. The new plan that they have the service entrance on Charles Street. No wonder why the neighbors are upset. I wouldn't want the trash trucks going up and down my street. It's an insult to the neighborhood. And the second thing is the reputation. This theater has a reputation all over the country. It's very well known in New York. It's very well known in London. I used to work in the theater in New York. I worked for one of the best set designers. I worked on several plays that came to the Coconut Grove Playhouse. And we tried them out here, and then they go back to Broadway. And the actors and the performers and the directors, they love the Grove. They love to come here and live here and work here. One of the actresses that I got to know put her child in St. Stephen's School and wanted the play to run longer because she loved the community and she loved having her daughter across the street from her at school. This Playhouse cannot die. We have to keep it. We have a viable plan. The two-theater plan works, and it will save the neighborhood, and it will include everyone, not exclude people. Thank you.
My name is Rubina Wilmot. I actually moved here 2 years ago, so I don't have the same clout as this wonderful folk of people. But we moved here because of the eclectic, rich heritage that Coconut Grove has to offer. The architecture, the community is second to none. Another mall. Aren't there enough white elephants right now that are standing empty, new elephants and older elephants? So please, we beg of you to save the jewel in the crown.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Lerner. I grew up in Miami, and the very first plays that I ever attended were at the Coconut Grove Playhouse. So the culture, the history, the legacy that it brings every time I go by, I recall going to the Playhouse. I'm also the former mayor of Pinecrest, and I bring that to your attention because in Pinecrest we had the Parrot Jungle, which was a major tourist attraction that was built in 1936. Pinecrest purchased the property, thankfully, and when I was elected mayor in 2008, they hadn't decided what to do with the property. The old bird shows still had wood chips on the ground. we brought in the AMS, Theater and Entertainment Consultants from the Northeast, and asked, we've got a 550-seat facility here, a theater possibility. Will you help us decide whether it's worth investing to rehabilitate and create a theater-like setting? And basically said, if they built it, will you come? And the community said, yes, we will come. We want more culture. We invested lighting, seats, stage, and we now have at Pinecrest Gardens in the Banyan Bowl a cultural arts venue that is highly profitable and popular and draws from beyond Pinecrest. We had it designated as a historic facility on the Registry of Historic Places. And when I see that panel on the entrance to our Pinecrest Gardens, and I see a historic designation on the Playhouse, I want to understand how one can be invested in and thrive and act as a cultural arts facility, and one can be considered for demolition. It makes no sense. I would ask you to remember every time you consider what should be done according to the City of Miami Code, that the designation by the City of Miami in 2005 that it be considered a historic facility, and it was on the National Registry of Historic Places, that decision to grant historical designation was based upon multiple factors, including the significance of the Playhouse, the architectural design of its original architect, and that the entire theater, not merely the facade, contributed to that historical designation. Demolition of the interior of the theater and replacement with a 300-seat theater fails to uphold that historic designation. It fails to uphold the commitment to preservation that was made back in 2005 and continually since then. And it is not an economically feasible theater. It will deprive you, and I know this because our 550-seat theater allows for a certain level of talent theater. You will not get the kind of attractive, economically feasible theater for 300 seats. You have to have the entire interior preserved. Thank you.
Max Pearl. I've been in every one of these meetings since 2011 when Michael Spring brought us all to the Women's Club of Coconut Grove and announced his plans and interest to pursue the Playhouse and develop, bring in Joe Adler, blessed memory. But as I walk in this room, before I go any further, I'm just struck, and I hope everyone looks around at two things. First of all, this is designated as you have the pleasure of enjoying a building that's on the National Historic Register. You have the privilege to enjoy that without anybody threatening to tear it down, even though there's been many alterations to this building over the years, turning it from an airport into a political place for you to hold your political offices. Something just to think about. Some of the comments that were made about the rats and the delays, let's just do something with it. My response to that, being someone who's been at every single, I've not missed a town hall, quasi-judicial hearing, a court hearing, I've been at them all from 2011 until today. I started in 2009 with the Save the Coconut Grove Playhouse Facebook page. We have over 11,600 followers. I'll just quote from Carmen Pillay about the rats and the mildew and the disrepair. If you don't like the rats, the county has the power to call an exterminator. If you don't like the mildew and you don't like the garbage, the county is the steward of your people that are in support of the county plan. You're complaining about the very things that they're the ones responsible for. I'll read to you from the lease. The state of Florida. State of Florida is the landlord. Michael Spring is the tenant. Maintenance of improvements. Lessee shall maintain the real property contained within the leased premises and any improvements located thereon in a state of good condition, working order, and repair, including but not limited to removing all trash or litter, maintaining all planned improvements as set forth in the approved land use plan, and meeting all building and safety codes. Lessee shall, I'm not going to go on, but that gives you a good snippet of information. There's a reason why Fisher Dax and the AMS study, the feasibility studies that former mayor of Pinecrest had done at the Pinecrest Theater, there's a reason why the county doesn't want you to know about the Fisher Dax AMS plans, feasibility studies that were done at the Playhouse, because those companies, those firms recommended a larger theater. And lastly, I will end with the words of the 11th District Court of Appeals. The county argues that the mayor relied upon the incorrect law. This is the 11th District Court of Appeals. The criteria in the National Register, rather than the binding HEP report from 2005. This argument is factually incorrect. This is the court telling you the county is incorrect. First, the mayor specifically relied upon the correct criteria, the 2005 HEP designation, which incorporated the report of the preservation officer. The Playhouse is a signature building reflecting the heyday of Coconut Grove. See City of Miami Preservation Officer 2005 report. The HEP board recognized the fundamental truth, and I seek to reinstate that decision. I'm reading to you straight from the court. Today, I heard nobody comment on this. Today's the Ides of March. Shakespeare couldn't be more appropriate. Coconut Grove Playhouse. Beware the Ides of March. Who's that going to apply to? Our side? Or the ones that want to demolish the Playhouse? What will we lose? Beware the Ides of March.